Okay, we are kicking off yet another project. This one is going to be really cool. So there's a lot of different elements that are going into this space. So just starting here, what you have is the area where there's going to be a bar, some speakers in the ceiling, floating shelves, nice cabinetry, kind of like a lounge hangout area. And then as you come this way in the room, there's these little stub walls that are going to be essentially the divider of splitting up the space. And over here, this is going to be a theater. It's a little bit more of like an open concept type theater, but the technology that's going into it, the acoustic design, all of those components, it's going to be phenomenal. So we're doing a 120-inch screen. The receiver will be inside of this cabinet here. We're doing a pair of really wild in-wall subwoofers, which I'll show you some footage of in a little bit. Right now, what we've been doing is just finding some of the different layout of the room. So I've got my laser set here at the dead center of the wall, both left to right and vertically. You know, the finished product, it's only as good as your due diligence that you do on the front end. So what I like to do is just really take my time in the beginning, make sure all those measurements are perfect, because there's a lot of different components that are going to be falling into place. And we want to make sure that our layout is going to work. So now I'll pop this off of here. Walk with me here. And then this area is going to be a golf simulator. So this is pretty much the dream basement. You've got yourself a golf simulator space that'll flow into a home theater space, which then goes into your bar, lounge, hangout area, and then in the morning you can get up and sweat it all out in your gym. Okay, so the first thing that I do now that I've got all my speaker design laid out is I always like to start at the front of the room and then move backwards to where the speakers are going to be. So if you look here, this is going to be our left speaker. Also shout out to Mr. G for hooking me up with the LaCroix. I'm addicted. So what you have here, everybody does it a little bit different. This is just my personal preference. I feel like it leads to like a cleaner result and like an easier to handle finished product. So what I like to do is I strip the jacket back off the speaker cable quite far, and then I do the same thing on my set of cables that will be running to my right speaker. So what I use, this is 16/4 speaker cable, meaning 16 gauge and 4 wires on the inside. So each speaker gets a pair, positive and negative, right? So it goes like this. So from where the receiver is, I can run one cable to my left speaker, and then I can run this pair to this speaker, and then I can splice these two together and run those to the right speaker. So it minimizes the amount of cables that are dropping into this backside. So anywhere that you have a pair of speakers, you can do this, which instead of having, I'll have 3 pairs of speakers. I'll have my 2 fronts, my middle ceiling height speakers, my rear ceiling height speakers. And so instead of having 6 individual cables running all the way back into there, which can be just like a cluttered mess, it's just 3. And then I'll cut to how I end up finishing it on the wall here, which again, just looks slick and it's nice and clean and secure, and it gives flexibility in the future depending on if I end up moving the speaker higher or lower, depending on where it lays out in the wall. I like to give myself some extra wiggle room. Okay, so here's what this finished product looks like. You can see the cable comes up, it goes across to the right speaker, right? No, where is it? There it is. So there's my right speaker, here's the left speaker, and then here is how that junction is made. Okay, so now I am installing this subwoofer. As you can see, it's going to go inside of this stud bay here. So yeah, I've never done one of these. I'm gonna figure it out. So what I'm thinking, first things first, because there's a bracket that goes across the base of the device to hold it into place. So first things first, I'm going to mark a level line. Oh, shit. A level line here. So that's where I want to put the bracket. So these mount in like this. There's a pair of them. And then the subwoofer actually sits on top of those and gets screwed in through the bottom. So yeah, we'll get those in place. I wonder if I can. Yeah, I think what I'll have to do is like get one secured and then put my level across just to make sure that it's perfect. I don't think I can get my laser this low. We'll see. Okay, it came with some hardware. So we'll use these screws. This is a brand called Focal, and we do their stuff quite often. All of it, the fit and finish is so nice. The sound is incredible. I've actually got a pair of Focal Coras set up in my office right now that I'm testing, and they sound so good. They sound so good. So I'm excited to test these out and see how they sound. We've done other in-wall subwoofers, and they usually leave a lot to be desired, honestly. But with this design where you have this huge box that goes into the wall, because the key to good sub and bass sound is, of course, the amount of air that it can move. And so having this large box, the top, 3/4 of this thing is essentially just an open box that allows more air to move. So that's the first bracket in. Now I'm just going to be super careful to make sure that we get the second one perfectly level. So I think that's my spot right there. Actually, I'm gonna do one of these. There we go. That stud's a little loose. I think the contractor is due back today. I'll have him punch another nail into that for me before I mount my speaker into it. There we go. That is as dead level as it will ever be. There we go. I'm gonna double check. Perfection. Yeah, this needs to be addressed before I mount this thing into place. Okay, well, that was really complicated to do by myself, but it was successful. So this is the subwoofer now in the wall, and you can see how much air that thing is going to be able to move just based on the size of that box that's within the wall. Such a cool design. Can't wait to hear how it sounds. As you can see, we're dead level. First subwoofer in. These things are insane. I can't wait to hear it. Gotta wait a few months. Here's the second one, just roughed in. I thought this was pretty clever. So, you know, again, you want them to be perfectly level with one another. I use the laser for that. Doing the solo though is tricky. So what I did, I don't know if you can see it, it probably doesn't show up on camera, but I have these stacked in here and there was a little bit of a gap. Let me see if I can get this to show up. I don't think it's going to. But essentially what I did is I put some screws in to create the gap that I needed because it wasn't quite the same. In the future, if I did this again, I think I would do this with the, you know, a stack of something to create the gap that I need. But this one you can see there's a little bit, let me get something in here. There's a gap here, and so I had to do something to create that proper gap to create the level that I need. But yeah, I'll get these ones mounted in and secured, and then we'll get a final look at this front wall. It's coming together. Okay, so as it goes with anything, the first subwoofer took me 30 minutes and a bunch of trial and error to get into place. This one took me like 5 minutes. So these, once you kind of have a plan in place, they go together really well. The blocks in the bottom to hold it up into the right position was the move for sure. As you can see now, those blocks are out. That gap that I was talking about, you can see it here. So I had to put in some screw heads and get those level to create that gap that I needed so that these would be perfectly level with my laser line. You can see the laser line going across there to the top of this side. Crispy clean. Let me take a few steps back, not trip over my workspace. So there it is. There's the right side. There's the left side. Let's go. Okay, so that is day one of this project. We've got the subwoofers in. We also have all of the front and in-ceiling speakers roughed in. There's still some decisions that need to be made around where the can lights are going to go, the other light fixtures. There's also some detail that's going into the ceiling. The contractor, Nick, is doing a really gorgeous barrel vault design on the ceiling, so some things may need to be adjusted accordingly. But overall, good progress for day one. We've got a big bundle of cables, everything's labeled, and then now whenever we come back, we'll run Ethernet cable and get some of the other components prepped for install. See you next time.